tonight, quote, "What in God's name is going on with Gavin Newsom?" That's a headline, and there's headline after headline asking that sort of question as the country is trying to figure out how he went from progressive hero and governor of the most liberal state in the country to interviewing and spending time with MAGA favorites like Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk on his new podcast. Tonight, our K-File looked into that, finding that Newsom, well, he's really completely changed his tune on some of the most hot-button issues for Democrats. K-File's Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. And Andrew, I mean, just going through some of these, he's got this podcast, and the concept was he wanted to talk to the other side, right? He was going to go into the lion's den. And remember back in the day when he did that debate with DeSantis, right? This is consistent.
Yeah.
So his first time, though, he goes out and he backs away from some unpopular progressive policies, even ones that he's championed. So let's talk about the word Latinx. Just 2 weeks ago, here's what he said about it.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree.
Where did that even
No
go?
more Latinx,
like,
everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was a person who used Latinx. It was actually a really important person. It was him, right?
Yeah, that's right. And look, these aren't minor shifts. These are progressive issues that Gavin Newsom used to champion until fairly recently. And now he's not just walking away from them. He's sort of acting like they were never legitimate with that clip talking about Latinx in the first place. But let's take Latinx. We did find somebody who used it repeatedly in his office. Let's take a listen to this.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
And look, Aaron, those aren't the only times that we found that he used it. He also used it a lot on social media. Look at a few of these right here. You see there, that is a lot of use of Latinx by him for somebody who said that nobody in his office has ever used that phrase.
Right. Sort of that was put upon him. All right. So he's also rewriting history a bit on his stance on transgender issues, which he had a point of view on his podcast, again, just 2 weeks ago. Here's where he is now.
It turns out in 2014, years before I was governor, there was a law established the legal principles that allow trans athletes in women's sports. But the issue of fairness is completely legit. It is an issue of fairness, and I think Democrats have lost it.
Now, he didn't always feel that way.
No, that's right. And look, in that statement, he's kind of making it sound like he wasn't involved in this at all. He's like, oh, it was in 2014, years before I was governor. Like, you mean when you were the lieutenant governor? When you actively defended and praised that law? And one of the videos that we found was actually him praising not just the governor at the time, Jerry Brown, but the California state legislature for putting that in place at the time. Take a listen to this.
Thank you for what you did on civil rights for students in our schools, transgender rights in this state.
Okay, so then there's that. Then there's transgender issues, right? Transgender policies. The governor referenced your own reporting on Kamala Harris's support for those taxpayer-funded sex change operations for detained migrants, right? Remember here when we had that conversation? Okay. It sifted the presidential campaign, right? That moment here. So here he is talking about it.
Trump's for you. She's for they, them.
And
devastating.
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 But let's talk about,
she didn't even react to it, which was even more
and let's talk
devastating.
about.
So he's referring to the ad that they put out using the clip from when you were here. Only a handful of years ago, though, he agreed with Kamala Harris on this very issue.
Yeah, and it has been the law in California to allow transition care for prisoners since 2017. Gavin Newsom didn't speak out or say anything about it until now. 5 years later when it became a political liability. And in fact, he signed a landmark transgender rights bill for prisoners that affirmed their right to have this type of care. And he approved a state Medicaid expansion that also extended gender-affirming care to undocumented immigrants. So his record on this is really not matching the rhetoric that he was putting out in that podcast.
All right, so what's he saying tonight about all this?
So we reached out to their spokespeople. They declined to comment on record. They sent us on background comments that said that he's worked to protect transgender youth. They said, quote, Latinx is not a term that is regularly used by the administration, and they did not clarify his comments on transgender prisoners at all, saying only that the governor's comments speak for themselves.
All right. Well, I guess they do. Andrew, thank you very much. K-File. And next, breaking news, Russia launching a wave of new attacks right now, tonight, in Ukraine. Putin's intention on ending the war, at least, if you go with actions and words, the actions are speaking quite loudly. Someone who knows him well, former Deputy Minister of Energy for Putin, is next. Plus, police now having to be called into some town halls as voters are refusing to back down.